What's going on, Puckheads and Pens Nation? I hope everyone had a Memorial Day weekend out there south of the border. And to all of you Canadians, I hope your Victoria weekend the week before was very good. We are back because there is quite some news to cover. And we're gonna hop right into it. But first and foremost, as always, I'm joined by my brother Nick here. How you doing, Nick? How's everything going tonight? I guess you're feeling a little bit better than
a week ago.
Yeah, that too. But I was gonna say, I bet you're feeling a little bit better than the Montreal Canadian on the other end of that Scheifele hit tonight, huh?
Well, I think I still feel like that hit because that's how it was hit last week when the Penguins bowed out for the last 3 years out of the first fucking round again. So I'm still crusty about that.
But hey, at least unlike Jake Evans, you know where you are right now, bro. Okay.
I don't know if the Penguins management know where they are right now either. So with some of the decisions that I heard today,
let's hop right into it. Before we get into the Ron Hextall presser, because I know you took some notes on it.
Mm-hmm.
We re-reported to certain people in the Pens media. Shout out to
we sorry to interrupt you. We actually had it first from Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday. So go on. Just wanted to let everybody know out there.
Yeah. Especially that one guy.
Yeah.
One radio personality doesn't know the difference between a puck and a donut. Mike Sullivan is returning as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and me and you talked about this as a possibility where it could even be as deep as them saying, "Hey, we want to play this style." Yeah. Mike Sullivan saying, "Yeah, okay, guys, don't worry, I got that. I'll play that way." And then he could be pulling the proverbial wool over some people's eyes here. I mean, what are your thoughts on Mike Sullivan and his system returning to the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Well, I think I'm very surprised. Last week when we had our show on the Thursday, I think it was after the Pens got eliminated, we talked about maybe the Penguins making a decision over the long weekend and maybe making a coaching change if it was going to be that fast. Same shit. It's going to be the same shit. I don't care what anybody tells me. You have a coach that believes in his system. Even if you bring in some heavy guys, he has a system. And every coach has their own system. And every coach brings their system to the team they get hired on or the team they're with. I have a hard time imagining that Sully's going to change his system. I really do. Unless he wakes up one day and says, you know what? Yeah, it doesn't work. But man, it's I don't think he'll change it, Jordan. I think
Let me ask you: is the pressure now on Hextall and Burke to find a goaltender now, though, especially now if he's not switching his system up?
Yeah, that's got to be the first thing they look at. But you look at some of the quotes from Hextall today, and again, some of the quotes that we had on our Instagram from Media Day last Friday with the Penguins and their players. And it seems that everybody has a vote of confidence with Jari. So, it's hey, is he going to be? We said it last week. We said it in prior podcasts. Maybe Jari's your backup, or there's a 60-40 split with a veteran that comes in and Jari sees 40% of the action. Who knows? But for me, it's hard to fathom because
could it be Hextall playing the PR game too?
Yeah, I listen
because he's still on the roster, right?
Everybody says that. He keeps things close to his vest, and doesn't like to divulge everything that he's going to do. He's not like JR where he's totally different. JR goes on rants. He gives you, the guys he's going after for trade targets, his off-season plans, what he plans to do. This guy's different. He's a little quiet. He's not going to give you everything. And maybe he's doing what you said, Jordan. Maybe it's a PR blast, making everything sound, soft and happy, like normally like the Penguins do. And that's what they did last Friday, and they did it again today.
So I just gotta. Is it
Yeah.
already shaping up to look like more of the same next year, in your opinion?
Well, I think there'll be some roster changes. I think you'll see that.
But how
You know,
much of the roster can you really turn
right,
over in
right,
one off season?
exactly. So you're looking at maybe adding a couple forwards, and you're gonna have to take away a couple forwards if you're gonna make some hockey trades, as well as looking at the back end. They're gonna have to give up to get, and then you're gonna have to look at a UFA goalie on the market. We talked about a few of them. There's a few out there. I'm not sure if they're going to be the right fit for the Penguins. If they're going to be if that's going to be the guy. I've come to a conclusion over the last week here with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I think that you know we're a great regular season team. We'll continue to be that. We'll make the playoffs next year. Will be fun and exciting to watch. But unless the system changes, and I don't care who you bring in, Jordan, if the system doesn't change, you're still losing. It doesn't matter to me. When you're activating the D and they're pinching like wildfire, when you have forwards defending on 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, you're going to see that. And then when you have a sieve in net, and I don't care what anybody tells me, Jari can come back with a better mind in September. He showed us what he could do, and it's to me, he's not a number one.
We were getting some backlash from American fans when really American fans should be bowing down to Canadian fans when it comes to knowledge with the game of hockey. Let's be honest with ourselves. And a lot of these people were pushing back. Oh, well, Sullivan wasn't the one in net. Sullivan was in this. Sullivan was in that. And one idiot, what could Sullivan have done? And I literally said to him, "Oh, I don't know, maybe a 1-2-2 trap. Wow. Maybe give him a dose of Barry Trotz, throw it back in the face." And what's crazy is, I guarantee that guy had to Google what a 1-2-2 trap is to even figure out what we're talking about.
There's a lot of different things that Sully could have done. He didn't make one lineup change. Okay, he didn't bring anybody different in the lineup over those 6 games. He didn't change the lines. He didn't even. Again, you know what? What did you have to lose? Put in legacy. Try something, right? It's. You see Sorokin game 1 against the Bruins, he got lit up like a Christmas tree, right? And then what happened? They had to go to Varlamov. They won an overtime. Series is tied at 1. But again, Pittsburgh didn't force the hand of Trotz to make that decision, right? Like Sorokin looked like Vasilevsky against the Penguins. And for me, it's about in-game changes. It's about systems. You can tell me, oh, Sully wasn't in the fucking net. Tell me that all you want, U.S. fans. Tell me that Pittsburgh media, oh, he wasn't in the net. He didn't have Carey Price. I don't give a fuck, to be honest with you. I really don't. At the end of the day, it's all about what the system is and what you're playing. And you look at the Montreal Canadiens playing against a high offensive team like the Toronto Maple Leafs. Up 3-1, the Leafs were. And Deschamps made in-game adjustments to his team. He inserted different guys in the lineup. He didn't start off with Kakanyemi or Caulfield in the lineup in game 1. He inserted them in game 2. Okay? He brought in Jake Evans at different parts of the series when he was healthy. He changed up his lines. That's what you have to do. And Sully, to me, like I said, 16, 17, he found that formula. That system worked. It hasn't worked since then. So, I told a friend the other day, and he's a former coach in junior, and I said to him, if you underperformed in your workplace, in your job for 4 years, and he's in sales now, would you still be around just because you won Employee of the Year 2 years in a row? He said, no fucking way. So I don't know, but again, to me, it's all fluff. Even the Pittsburgh media, they're calling for these little changes or whatnot, and trading Jake Getzel, and so you're going to trade.
You know what it seems like? They're finding scapegoats in everyone except they're finding a bunch of scapegoats instead of pointing the finger at the people who deserve it.
Right.
Because here's the thing: wasn't guys like Mark Madden and Josh Yohe and these guys? weren't they writing pieces basically implying that Sullivan should be on his way out? And then all of a sudden they found out he's not, and it's, oh, let's go back to kissing ass over here.
Right. And that's all they do. They never really call out what the real story is. And it's okay that Sully's coming back and it's okay this, but the bottom line is the Pittsburgh Penguins are an entertaining team through the 82 game season. No, Jordan, honestly.
But the results are mediocre.
They sell tickets, right? They sell tickets and they're fun to watch.
A lot more. You could sell a lot more in the playoffs and make a lot more money.
Right. But it's all about selling jerseys, hats, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
you don't want to hear it, but that's what it is.
This media is getting content with mediocrity, bro.
Right.
And this is a franchise that's supposed to be anything but. This isn't the Rico Fata era, bro.
Well, to me, it seems more of like a Muskoka. And for fans that are in the U.S., Muskoka is a cottage country where NHL players have cottages, and most of the time they retire up there. So this is becoming like, we like to call it the Muskoka 5. So basically this is what's happening with, I like this guy. I want this guy to play on my line. I like this guy. Don't take this guy away. Don't trade this guy because I like this guy. Whatever. Like, honestly, it's sort of it's distasteful for me now. I've had a week to think about it, and
we're here for ships, championships, not friendships. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it looks like the Pittsburgh media likes to keep their friendships with all the Penguins and the Brass too. So there's a lot of kissing ass when it comes to that.
Bro, and the arrogance of some of these guys, bro.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. They like the best thing about it is you respect them and you tweet them back, and you sort of, and we just because I respect their work, and on Saturday night I gave 3 or 4 of them information that they wouldn't have had because they don't have Hockey Night in Canada, and you tweeted it out, Jordan. I posted it on our Instagram, and the sarcasm and everything else that came with it, and also being called a dipshit by one media member, Mark Madden, after just to me the name calling and that stuff is just ridiculous. You're unprofessional. We're not trying to
and all you're addressing was Sullivan returning.
That's it. Yeah.
You didn't even say anything towards Mark Madden.
Right.
But he goes there. I mean,
yeah.
If I was fat, miserable, on the borderline obese, a washed up wrestling commentator, and spent more than half of my salary on prostitutes and escorts because no woman will touch me, I'd be in a bad mood too, Mark Madden.
Yeah.
Fucking clown.
Yeah.
Mark Madden, here's the thing you didn't realize. When all these restrictions get lifted, me and this guy like to travel down to Pittsburgh for games. All right? And you better pray I don't run into your ass, buddy. Because I ain't going to miss it. That's sure as hell if I come near it, bro. But I'm the guy with his bottle cap glasses looking like the Pittsburgh version of Bubbles over there.
It's just, like, again, it's just, to me, it's just disappointing that, they don't know
hockey. The thing is, they're sitting there talking like they know. Oh, well, they didn't have a goaltender. If you think goaltending was the only reason this team lost, you do not know what you're watching. This is what I talk about with football. Listen, casuals, bro. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with casuals. You're dealing with casuals who sit on the couch. You know what? They watch the game, but they don't understand what they're watching. There's a big difference in watching it and understanding the nuances and everything going on and why this is happening and why that's happening. And he's one of those guys.
I think also too is that guys that never laced up the skates or
laced up skates, bro. When was the last time this guy saw his toes, bro?
I'm talking about a lot of these guys. Out there, never laced up skates, never coached behind a bench, in an OHF final, never talked to scouts about certain players that were on their team after finals, NCAA scouts, OHL scouts, in the heat of the moment. And as well as, then they make fun of the Canadian media. Well, let me tell you something as well as if it wasn't because of two Canadian hockey players, you guys wouldn't even be reporting hockey in Pittsburgh. Okay. And that's Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby. You guys would be reporting some bullshit sport that you guys had there because the Pirates suck and the Steelers are jabroni. So at the end of the day, right, good luck. So
Pirates haven't been relevant since like 91, bro.
Never mind the Canadian media. Okay. Thank God you have two Canadian icons that help save your franchise.
Bro, I just taking it's just, the fat guy behind the keyboard because he ain't right in front of you, bro.
Yeah.
Buddy, that guy throwing a punch, bro, he'd probably break out in a sweat.
Yeah, but enough of this guy. Anyways, so what I think with the Penguins is that bringing Sully back, he might agree to it with Tocchet and Burke, and we'll see if again the pieces they make or they trade and see how the first 10-15 games go in the season. Is there a trade or is there something that happens if the Penguins come out of the gate slow?
Any chance Tocchet returns as an assistant?
No, I think the coaching staff remains the same. There's even
the guys JR brought in.
Yeah. So just for example here, okay. So this was a quote from Hextall today.
Hold on, we'll get into that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. What are you getting into?
Hold on. We'll get into that in a sec.
Okay.
You're telling me Mike Buckley is going to return to the goaltending coach? Good God Almighty!
Well, I don't know about that.
So let's get into Ron Hextall's postseason presser.
Yeah.
All right, so go nail that quote you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So basically, he just said that he said we were very pleased with our coaching staff. It was a tough year. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the challenges with COVID. Our entire staff, not just the players and the coaches, did a terrific job. So there you go. Right.
Excuses.
So I think when it comes to Mike Buckley, he's probably the only guy that probably will be let go.
Your boy Vellucci's sticking around?
He got it, yeah. Yep.
All right, so you took some notes on this presser. Let's hear what you got.
Yeah, so basically, the first thing is that in regards to Tristan Jarry, he said Tristan did a good job for us this year. We wouldn't have been where we were without Tristan.
Yeah, that's knocked out in the first round. Yeah, we wouldn't have been there without him.
Right. We all have to remember Tristan is a young player. He's going to learn from this and come back better in September. So, not sure if that was the Toronto Maple Leafs presser or the Penguins presser.
He never called him the starting goaltender. That's a good.
Right, for sure. So, but you still have Casey DeSmith under contract, right? But he can definitely play in Wilkes-Barre. He did that 2 years ago as well, right? Getting paid that salary. But again, I don't know. I find
to see if they make Jarry available to the Kraken.
What's that?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if they make Jarry available to the Kraken.
Yeah, but I don't think that. Yeah.
That would tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. We'll see. I have this again. If they're not going to make a move on Sully, I think they think that Tristan, from all reports, that Jarry is coming back. I do think he'll be back with a veteran goalie, and then we'll have to take it from there. So, in regards to the contracts with Gino and Chris Letang, he said those are discussions that certainly are ongoing right now within our staff. We see future with this core. These guys have been here for a long time. I expect to have these guys back next year for sure. So does that mean two things? Are they going to get contract extensions in the summer, or does one of them? If I do expect one of them, you'll probably see that being Chris Letang, and then we'll see where they go with Gino. If it's not this year, maybe they'll let him sweat it out and play for a contract. So listen, you're not going to, honestly, Jordan, you're not going to hear the stuff that this guy didn't blow me away today again, but he's that type of guy. He's not going to reveal what he thinks, how he feels. He keeps everything close knit. He's done that with Los Angeles. He did that with Philly. Like I said, he's totally different than JR, right? He doesn't ramble on everything here. So
Thank God for JR going senile. That's how we got the ramblings.
Yeah. So another one was we have some pretty special players. They're obviously not in their 20s anymore, but are still playing at a high level. So we'll be in a win now mode next year. Said they're balanced, giving away futures with finding ways to make the team better in the present. Again, with these quotes, I definitely, what I got away from this presser today is that the core will be back, and we sort of felt that last week that they'll be back. What I envision here is I envision hockey trades happening. I have a hard time. It was said again today on Madden's show. I have a hard time. DK was on there too. Talking about Jake Getzel getting traded, or a Brian Rust. Okay, there's some reports out there that most likely CC won't be back. I'm sure he's going to get payday. He'll get back to that 1.5 million. Pedersen, he'd probably be dangled out there as well. Jason Zucker. But see, the thing is that
I'll take a bag of pucks for Pedersen at this point.
Yeah. Again, the expansion draft is definitely going to be interesting because some of the guys some of the guys that are unprotected, they're unprotected because they know that teams are like Seattle's not going to take them as well. Right. So everybody goes, oh, this guy's not getting protected. Well, it's because he's not going to be taken. Now, that being said, when you look at some of the postseason moves, like where does Jared McCann fit in here? Is he going to be one of the protected or unprotected? Because I could see Seattle going after a guy like that, right? But my thoughts on the Ron Hextall postseason presser here, Jordan, is that I don't see a lot of things changing. I see this team again. I don't see them being a Stanley Cup contender. I see them being a good team that can make the playoffs. If they get out of the first round, great. We'll get more than a week and a half of hockey. If not, it'll be the same shit next year.
I got to ask you, how does this sit with a guy like Sidney Crosby, in your opinion?
Man, I had a conversation tonight with a former scout, and we had this conversation, and basically, it was this. It was.
Why you got a shit grin on your face?
Because the thing is, I think there's just it's a get along game right now. I don't think those changes, the changes that we want as fans, are going to happen. I just don't see it. And to me, to believe that they finally found a winger for Sid in Jake, can you see them trading him?
No, I told you this.
I can't see this, man. If there's one player that I do see getting traded,
Rust.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Because teams will want them because he's a little gritty too.
Right. But I do think that the chemistry with Jake and Sid have been playing together now for 3-4 years now, right? So or more. I think that chemistry there, we haven't seen that since the days of Kunitz and Dupuis playing on his line. So more Kunitz because Kunitz was around longer. If Jake gets traded, and Madden's comparing the Hornquist and the Neal trade and whatnot, but James Neal wasn't playing with Sidney Crosby; he was playing with Gino on his wing. So that relationship with Sid, no big deal. But Sidney has a lot to say. I don't care what anybody tells me. That's why there's information that got leaked here after the Islanders series that Sid was refusing for a change of line mates with Rust and Getzel. So I think it's a couple moves, and we'll see where it goes.
All right. So now that the 2020-2021 season is done, let's get into some Penguins player grades. Yeah. Are we doing collectively here with the season and playoffs, or are we going just the season?
Well, I think just the season because for me,
talking about with the playoffs.
The playoffs is just a big F.
Yeah.
So, I think just the season. Yeah.
So, what's your grade for Sidney Crosby?
So I gave him an A. I think he was. I think he had a really, really good season for carrying the Penguins, especially through that month of March. He started off slow, and then February started to take off, and really took off when Gino was hurt. So, they got that first place because of Sid's play.
Yep. 24 goals, 38 assists, 62 points, +8. I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that. What were your thoughts on our second leading scorer, Jake Gensel? 23 goals, 34 assists, 57 points, and a +7.
Yeah, I gave him Mr. JK gave him a B+.
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah, and the reason why I gave him a B+, I thought his point production was really good. I do still think, like, if you look at his game before he got hurt, he had more jam. It didn't even look like before he got hit or hurt that he was getting hit around like he did this year and then in the Montreal series. But again, the Montreal series last year in the bubble mulligan. But definitely looked like a ragdoll in this Islanders series. And as well as if we're just looking at the regular season, it started this. You could see signs, Jordan, that this was going to go into the playoffs. He had a hard time getting the pucks out when we were playing against the heavier teams.
What did you give Chris Letang for his season?
I gave him an A. I gave him an A because listen.
For 1 month of great play. Okay.
No, I think he played. Honestly, I think he played more than 1 month. I'd give him all the way until a certain, just like the Penguins logo fell on the back there, just like Letang. just like the tank fell in the playoffs. But no, what I would say is with Chris, I definitely think I thought he had a good year. Yeah.
And what was your thoughts on Brian Rust, the other line mate of Sidney Crosby this year?
Rusty, I gave him an A. I just think that he was more consistent this year. He was first to the puck. He used his legs. He was on the fly through the neutral zone. He worked well with Sid. That line carried the load for the Penguins, especially towards the end of February and again all of March, and clinching that East Division. What'd you give him?
Brian Rust, I gave him a. Well, first of all, with Letang, I gave him a B.
Yep.
I really only see. I wouldn't say this season was great. I think he had one great month. The rest of it, I think he was good, sufficient enough. Brian Rust, 22 goals, 20 assists, 42 points, +9. I gave him a solid B-. I don't think he'll ever be a B or a B+ player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been saying this all along. I think, Rusty is, in some cases he's a top 6, and then others I see him on the third line. I just think that, the plus minus, Jake, Sid, Rusty, they carried the load. They played probably, 8 to 10 weeks of really, really solid hockey for the Penguins. But I agree too as well with yours. I think, for Brian Rust as a player, I think he's a B for sure. As a player overall, my opinion, I think A was for this season. But
what did you think of Jared McCann's season this year? 14 goals, 18 assists, 32 points, +17. He was a better plus-minus than he was a goal scorer. What were your opinions on Jared McCann this year, someone who we constantly harp on as underachieving?
Yeah, so I gave him a B. I thought at points of the year he looked really strong. Like I said, the plus minus was big. I thought he really fit in that number 1 power play unit. But again, the downfall with McCann is he's a streaky hockey player, and we saw that at the end of the season as well as going into the playoffs. He scored those couple goals towards the end, but they're against the Sabres, big deal. But very streaky. So I gave him a B.
See, I might be a little biased here, but I gave him a C+.
Okay.
He just never. The streakiness kills him, in my opinion, because you see flashes and then you see him revert to why are you even on the ice some shifts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And consistency is key in any sport. And I think that's his biggest problem, especially since he's been a Penguin. There's just no consistency out of him. So yeah, I gave him a C+. What were your thoughts on Kasperi Kapanen? Now we know he missed about 16 games. He had 30 points in 40 games. Before he got hurt, him and Malkin were getting something going. It looked like he was going to have a really high trajectory. If he wouldn't have got hurt, him and Malkin had something going for sure. Probably the best I've seen Malkin working with a winger since the aforementioned James Neal. What were your thoughts on Kasperi Kapanen this season?
I gave him a C. I just felt that he was really inconsistent this year. He had that streak there where, him and Gino, before Gino got hurt, there was some chemistry, but I feel that he's that type of player that, you'll see him for 3 or 4 games and then you won't see him for 3 or 4 games. He has elite speed. He has a wicked shot, but we just don't see enough of it.
So what do you think it's going to take for him to become a more consistent player? Because like I said, before he got hurt, it looks like he was finding his groove.
Yeah, we've seen this in Toronto too, right? Like the inconsistency of Kapanen. I'm not sure, again, what type of mindset we're dealing with here. There was, definitely some issues here in Toronto with Kapanen's attitude and some of the things that went on behind the scenes. I'm not sure his dedication to the game is 100%. So until that maybe gets in order, you're going to get that on the ice.
All right, and then moving along, what did you think of Jason Zucker this year?
Who?
Zucker.
Who?
Yeah. 18 points, -8. I believe his cap hit is what is it, 4.5 or is it 5.5 million?
5.5, around there.
$5.5 million cap hit.
Yeah.
And he gets, he was injured as well, but when he plays, he gets minutes on that line with Gino. What were your thoughts of Zucker this year?
Yeah, no, like again, he's another player that is streaky. He was invisible most of the year. He had the injury, came back. He's a guy that hustles, but the Penguins have too many guys that have that similar stature in terms of they bring some speed element to the game and they have some finish, but he's just, at the end of the day, Jordan, I gave him a D.
Sorry, I agree with that. The D with Kapanen. Well, first of all, I didn't give my Jared McCann one.
Yeah,
Jared McCann, I gave him a C- just because of that consistent. Like, you got to be consistent, buddy.
Yeah.
Kasperi, this was a tough one for me between C+ and B-, just because. But I got to go with C+ because the B- was on what if. What if he didn't get hurt and him and Malkin didn't get hurt and they kept playing the level that they were at? I think we'd be sitting here giving Kasperi Kapanen a better grade for the year. Well, let's talk about the center of that line.
Yeah.
He only played 33 games this year.
Yeah.
He didn't even crack 10 goals, 8 goals, 20 assists, -4. What were your thoughts on Evgeny Malkin's season when he actually was on the ice?
Yeah, I gave him a C. There was that spur when he started to find his groove, get his legs back, playing with Kapanen. He started to look dangerous like he normally does. And then after he got hurt, he came back, and we all know how long it took him to sort of look like Gino until Game 6. But I gave him a C. I just, the biggest frustration for me with 71 was the fact that he used that excuse back in the beginning of the year that there wasn't a gym to train and all that nonsense. Like, come on, man.
Bro, if we had that much money, I think we'd both have gyms in our house, would we not?
I'd have a hockey rink probably, to be honest.
You wouldn't have a gym as well? You'd probably
I would have a gym. I would have a gym and a hockey rink built.
At least half of a sheet of ice, bro.
Oh, come on. With the money he has, he could have a full sheet. Bottom line.
That's why I said at least half.
Hold on. Least. With the Russian scrapers scraping the ice, the girls. You know what I mean? Right? So, like, listen, at the end of the day, this guy, anyways.
So I'm a little harsher.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I gave him a D+.
Okay.
Based on what we expect from him.
For sure.
And same thing as you.
Mm-hmm.
The guy had more excuses than he did flashes this year.
Yeah.
That's an issue for me.
Yeah.
And, we talk about consistency is key with McCann.
Mm-hmm.
I got to hold the superstars to that same
100%
level. And this is a guy, as a leader, he's supposed to go out there and set the tone of consistency.
Yeah.
This is a former Conn Smythe winner, a former Art Ross winner here.
Yeah.
And Hart Trophy winner too. What he won? He won a Hart, right? Yeah, did he? Yeah, he won a Hart, didn't he?
With Gino, I don't even know, to be honest with you. I think he did one.
That year he won what year he won the Art Ross? I could have swore he won the Hart.
Oh, let's check. Yeah,
he might have lost out to Ovechkin that year.
Let's see.
Oh, I think he did lose out, and we were mad.
No, he won. He won the. In 2012, Malcolm was awarded the Hart Trophy and the Tim Lizzie. Yeah.
There you go. You go when you have those kind of accolades to your name, and you're going out, and when you are on the ice, just like McCann, we're wondering why sometimes you're even out there. Now, in all fairness, especially in the last game of the playoffs, he looks like the only one that wanted it when he was out there.
Right.
So he did turn it around a little bit, but it was way too little, way too late for me. So I'm going to give a D+ to Malkin.
Then listen, I was going in that area too.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, let's talk about Teddy Bluger.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on him this season? Not so much in the playoffs.
I gave him a C. Again, I expect more from Teddy. I think, he does have some offensive flair to his game, and we didn't see that a lot this year. I think on the penalty kill, he was great, him and Tanev together. But overall, again, I want more. I want to see more from him. I think the Penguins gave him a viable chance to show more this year with, playing those minutes. I still think he needs to perform more.
Agreed. I agree with the grade too. That's the same grade I'd give him. His line mate Brandon Tanev. What did you think of Brandon Tanev?
Yeah, I gave him a B. I think Tanev's a player that I find that there's some games you see him and you just notice 13 all the time, and then there's other games where you're like, he's okay. And now that just depends on the minutes he's getting from Sully. But again, like the penalty kill, him and Bluger were great. I think he tries to play a big man's game, and all power to him. The guy's got a heart of gold, and he plays like a bull. But I think, some of the problem here with this particular line is that they understand their role, but they try to get too fancy at their role. And look at that line, like the identity line, Zizekas, Martin, and Clutterbuck, and they crash and bang. And if they get the odd goal, fantastic. But they let their presence known that they're on the ice every time they're on. And this particular line, I don't know if they really have an identity. Is it a checking line? Is it, a checking line and they want to be fancy? So, yeah, for me, I gave him a B.
Their other little partner there,
Yeah.
Lazar. What did you think of Lazar this year?
Yeah, I gave him.
And I agree with your B on Tanev too.
Tanev?
I love the energy he brings, man. Like,
yeah, me too, man.
he sets
Yeah,
a tone, and
yeah,
you got to call him what he is. You had 7 goals and 9 assists in 32 games.
yeah,
He's not a goal scorer. He's not a point getter. He'll chip
yeah,
in here and there, but he will, for a man his size, he will lay the body and he'll eat up some minutes. You know what I mean?
for sure. And this is again the thing is that the problem with some of these guys that come to the Penguins, they put that jersey on and they think they can play like a Sid or like a Gino or whatever. No, you're brought in to play the specific role, right? So yeah, no, I agree with you with that. And then with Czar, listen, man, you know what? I think
Give it to him, buddy.
again, he's got ample opportunity to be that guy that they wish he was going to be. When they first signed him out of college, the next Patrick Hornquist, not even close. The guy doesn't even get his nose dirty in front of the net. He's still, to me, he's still a perimeter player. He doesn't go inside the box at all. He's slow. His hands are slow. Yeah, in the beginning when he came back, or in the beginning of the year, he was on a little bit of that goal streak, but a couple empty netters, whatnot. I gave him a C minus.
All right, and I actually gave him a D.
Okay.
I just think this guy hasn't lived up to anything he was supposed to be. When I remember how touted he was when he came up, and he's just, it goes back to what you said about the Hornqvist comparisons. But the guy's softer than a roll of Charbon, bro. He will not go into a corner. I'm just not a fan of Zach Aston Reese. I see no need for him being on the roster moving forward. We're gonna stick with the forwards here.
Yep.
Evan Rodriguez. What did you think of his play this year? 35 games only, but 14 points, 7 and 7, -3. What were your thoughts on Evan Rodriguez this year?
I gave him a B, and the reason why I gave him a B is because he went up and down the lineup. Whatever Sully needed him to play, fourth line, third line, second line, first line, he did his best. And I think I think he's a player that is valuable to an organization. If you get injuries or whatnot, you can slide him in different situations. Even on the PK, he did a decent job blocking shots. I like Evan Rodriguez. I think he's a valuable piece to your team if you get into an injury situation. I really liked his game. I think you know what? I think he should have been put in more in the Islanders series. Because you didn't get anything else from anybody. So Jared McCann hasn't scored a goal in the playoffs since maybe in his minor hockey years. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So because he didn't make the playoffs with the Panthers, right?
Yeah. So I agree with that assessment 110%. I'll even agree with that grade too for what he was asked to do and what he delivered. He definitely showed up. A favorite of yours, Mark Jankowski. 45 games played, 4 goals, 7 assists. He was 46.8 in the face-off circle, +4. What were your thoughts of the Jank?
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I even almost forgot he was on the roster once the playoffs came, right? And then I was doing this yesterday, grading the players. I'm like, man, what happened to Jank here? But he was a wild card that JR brought in. He had a terrible season with the Flames the year before. Just didn't fit in. Again, one of the things that you're noticing with these third and fourth liners of the Penguins that these guys are bringing in, JR brought in, they're trying to be something they're not. And you can't play like that. If you're a grinder fourth liner, that's the way you got to play. You can't be doing these saucer passes and these back. So he was brutal. I gave him a D.
Yeah, I gave him a D-. He was an absolute joke.
Yeah.
I'll save that one.
Yeah.
Colton Seaver, 46 games, 5 and 5 for 10 points. He was a 0+-. He only averaged about 9:35 of ice time per game. What were your thoughts on Colton Seaver? Because I'll tell you right now, another D- guy for me, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. But again, this guy was a throw-in with the Matheson trade. They said, JR, you got to take Seaver off our hands if you want Matheson. So this was like, bag of pucks coming with Matheson. Didn't fit in, slow. He had a couple decent games. But man, that's a D- all the way. That's a waste of, that was a waste of 1.5, whatever he was making.
You made me wish they called up Freddie Gaudreau quicker.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Yeah.
Freddie, Freddie
Yeah.
Gaudreau, he only played
Yeah.
19 games,
Yeah.
but 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points, plus 10 in
Mm.
19 games. What were your thoughts on Freddie Gaudreau this year?
I gave Freddie Hockey a B. I listen. He gave the team a spark. He went through up and down the lineup again. I think one game he was the second line center, if I believe. He did a good job on penalty kills and whatnot. You got to give Gaudreau his credit. We know that he probably won't stick with the Penguins next year in the lineup, but I thought he brought a spark to the lineup when he played. And I gave him a B.
Another guy who was kind of highly touted, like Czar, coming up, and he's been a very big disappointment.
Yeah.
Sam Lafferty,
Yeah.
34 games, 6 assists.
No goals.
He had no goals, minus 6 as well.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Sam Lafferty?
He's a very frustrating player because, I'd watched him in training camp before the bubble because they had it, streaming, and he was one of the best players at camp, right? The guy's got speed, but no finish, and you're always wanting more from Lafferty because you see there's intangibles of his game that you like. But man, like I gave him a C minus. I
gave him a D plus.
Yeah, I think his time with Pittsburgh is done. He's had an ample opportunity.
That whole bottom 6 needs to be, other than Carter, needs to be blown, and Tanev needs to be blown to smithereens, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe Bluger gets another dive at playing fourth line center, right? Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into Anthony Angelo. Because who cares?
No, there's no point. There's no point of that.
I'm not going to get into Drew Connor.
No.
I'm not going to get into Josh Curry.
I think that's another podcast for when we're looking at our youth in the organization and the draft and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's get into the defense.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? We already went over Chris Letang.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts of Brian Dumoulin this year? 41 games played, 4 goals, 10 assists, plus 14 points, plus 18, averaged about 22, 21 of minutes on the ice.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Brian Dumoulin this year?
For the first time ever, I found that, Dumo really opened my eyes on how valuable he is to the Pittsburgh Penguins. He brings that calming demeanor, that leadership. He's just a horse on the ice. He had a bounce back season. It looked like he came back stronger from that ankle injury he had before that leg injury he had. Man, I think he was solid. I gave him an A.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I love Dumo, man. Especially when he came back. When he came back from an injury, oh my God, he was so effective. He was so good. And I'll even go as far as saying he's probably, other than the brain fart, which Letang didn't help him on.
Yeah.
In that Islanders series there, he was really one of our best players in the playoffs as well.
He was 100%. And before that name used to come up in my conversations with people about Dumo and maybe being a trade commodity, but seeing him the way he played this year in the playoffs and the regular season, man, he's a steady horse on that blue line.
Agreed. One of your personal favorites this year. What did you think of Cody, Bobby, Cece?
I think those first couple of games he was scratched, whatnot, but man, he had a hell of a season. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like he was so consistent, steady.
Even in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yeah, maybe he had a couple games where he wasn't a strong, but who didn't? But man, you talk about consistency from probably a week into the season. Man, he was Rutherford, we complain about some of his pickups. It was another wild card, and it actually worked out. I'm going to hate to see him go, but, I think he's going to go for more money. Or maybe he likes the coaching staff here. He found a home in Pittsburgh. Maybe he takes instead of $1.5 million, maybe he just takes $1 million. I don't know. Right. But he was steady for sure. I gave him an A.
Yeah. So 53 games, 4 goals, 13 assists, 70 points, plus 18.
Right.
Averaged about 18:31 in ice
Yeah.
time. I agree with you. I gave Cody CC an A as well.
And
He was a really good addition, man.
you have to remember too, with some of the injuries they had, back there, he took a hold of that D, and
Responsibility, yeah.
yeah, and he was the guy that I was looking at night after night. Okay, he's got to take hold of the D, right? So good job on
Um, what were your thoughts on quite a controversial figure
him.
with the Pittsburgh fans? A lot of people don't like him. Mike Matheson this year, 5 goals, 11 assists, 16 points, plus 9, averaged about 18:38 in ice time, 44 games played. What did you think of Matheson?
Inconsistent year. There was points where he went for a stretch there in March where he was really consistent and really playing bang on, limiting the mistakes, the pinches or whatnot. Yeah, I don't know. Too much money for a player of his stature and his results. I think the Penguins have too many of those type of players right now in their organization. So I would say, I gave him a C.
Yeah, I gave him a C minus, so we're not that
Yeah,
far off.
yeah.
Again, we go back to that word consistency.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And it just didn't do it for me. I,
yeah.
you know,
That's one of the things, though, Jordan. When you
another
look at
guy I won't be sad to watch go.
yeah, again, but who's going to take his contract? And this is exactly why, Jordan, that the Penguins will continue to struggle because they have too many D that play the same way,
Mhm.
right? And you can't. You need at least, if you have, again, when you're looking at your six, you need two guys that have offensive flair, three max, and then three that can just grind the shit out of you and make you pay, like a Mayfield, like a Pollock on the Islanders, cross-checking Sid where, he probably saw the back of his neck, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm not going to get into Chad Ruedel,
Yeah.
but I'm going to ask you about a guy who played a similar amount of game almost,
Mm,
and that's just because he's kind of part of our future, hopefully.
right.
What did you think of POJ this year? Pierre Oliver Joseph, 16
Yeah.
games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points, plus 1. When he did play, he averaged about 16:47 of ice time. What were your thoughts on POJ?
I think he came out of the gate strong. I think he played well in the beginning. Uh, Down the stretch, it seemed that, and especially when he was playing with Letang for the points there, that he can't play with a partner like that. He's got to play with a partner that's a stay-home defenseman like a Dumo, if somebody that's going to be reliant, because POJ has some offensive flair to him. That being said, he again he's got the ability, but he's still light on his feet. He's got to hit the gym more. He's got to get tougher. He's got to be stronger. There was Madden brought it today on his show that he thinks that POJ is one of those guys that you can throw in a package to get, a good package in return. And he was, yeah. Listen, it's hard to find young defensemen, so I would not trade him. If you're going to trade anybody on the back end, it's got to be Pettersson.
Speaking of Pettersson, 47 games played, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points, plus 8, 16:29 average ice time. He's part of the worst pairing in the playoffs with him and Marino. What did you think of Marcus the Pylon Pettersson this year?
Just awful. Again, another player that, Rutherford got, a hard on about right away, paid him the money after a decent season. And now we're left with a player that's $4.5 million deep. Who's going to take him off our hands? I don't think he's worth it. That's why Anaheim let him go. So yeah, I gave him a big D minus.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
In terms of that grade, he's just
Yeah.
so brutal. Now his partner John Marino
Yeah.
averaged about 20:44 in ice time, 3 goals, 10 assists, 13 points, plus 5 in 52 games.
Right.
What were your thoughts? And the crazy thing about about Marino was a lot of us were expecting him to take a step forward in his development, and he really didn't. And it might be because of who he's playing with. But what were your thoughts on John Marino this year?
I think, listen, he went backwards sophomore year. Also, again, another guy that received a big paycheck for having one good year. Now we all know, especially being, where we're from here, when players get handed out these contracts after 1 year, there's a lot of pressure on a young player to perform. People were calling him the next guy to take over that right-handed shot on the blue line. That Letang was now expendable, and we had Marino. Marino tried to be that offensive player. He wasn't. He made a lot of mistakes, sophomore mistakes. I still think he has talent, but with a young defenseman, it's a 3-year trend here. So we'll see how next year goes.
All right, getting to the goalies. Casey
Yep.
DeSmith started 20 games. Well, he played in 20 games. He had started 17 of those, 11-7. A save percentage of 9.12, goals against of 2.54, which was the best on the team. Pitched 2 donuts. What were your thoughts on Casey DeSmith this year?
I gave him a B plus. I thought he was bang on. He was exactly what you wanted. He's exactly what you wanted a backup goalie to be, Jordan. Right? So he came in, did his job, and I definitely think that if he was around for the playoffs, we would have seen him starting a game or two, maybe because of Jari's defaults.
So now, speaking of Jari,
Mm-hmm.
played in 39, started 38, 25, 9, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
He had a save percentage of 9.09 and a goals against of 2.75 and pitched 2 donuts. What were your thoughts on pitching Jari this year?
Yeah, I gave him a B plus. I thought,
Thank God we're not including the playoffs, huh?
Well, this is just a regular season. Let's make that point again. I thought again, there was that stretch in March where both the Smith and Jari looked phenomenal, and I didn't think goaltending was going to be an issue once we got into the playoffs. If you were going to tell me that was going to be our downfall, I would say you're crazy, because they were playing on such a high. That being said, and again, you can go back, who's ever watching this, who's going to watch this tomorrow and whatever, you go back to, I think it was our playoff podcast. And I said to Jordan, yeah, we went 10-3-1 in April, but the goaltending was suspect. And
boy, did that show up.
And then that showed up. So I think, B plus for the regular season. Yes. I really thought Jari was turning the corner here. So I gave him a B plus. I'm not sure what you gave him.
Yeah, I gave him a B plus too. He was good in the season.
Yeah.
People do not want to hear my playoff grade for him. All right. So I just wanted to ask you before we get out of here and get into final thoughts.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Sabres have the number 1 overall pick. Just from people you're talking to.
Yeah.
Is it going to be Owen Power that goes number 1 overall? Yeah. Because it's a very defensive heavy draft right here. Or are they going to draft a guy like Dylan Guenther from the Edmonton Oil Kings? Like, what do you see? Because it looks like the University of Michigan this year is pumping them out. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's
Beniers and
Johnson.
Cam Johnson.
Yeah.
What are you thinking of? Do you think they go Owen Power?
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to go Owen Power. I think Eichel, again, hearing some reports from some of the media here in Toronto tonight. Sam Cosentino, really good guy, really good reporter, knows every junior hockey player out there, best in the game when it comes to junior hockey. He's saying that Owen Power is the number 1 pick. He will go number 1. He's more of a steady defenseman. So if you have Power and Dahlin manning the points in Buffalo, you have a good pairing there. And then he's saying Eichel's out. So Eichel's going to get out of there. I think that's going to be a done deal. So it could be, they're going to get a forward return. So you're definitely going to go after a defenseman. We all know this, that, listen, if you want to win the cup and you want to be a great team, it starts from the goalie up. So I would go Owen Power for sure. There's some, I think from number 1 to 15, there's some really good picks out there.
Let me ask you, would you, because of how long it takes to develop, would you at all look at trying to move up for Jesper Wallstedt, the goalie from Sweden?
No, I would. You might want to try to move up that way, but I do think for Buffalo, for their fan base and for what they get in return for Eichel, there's reports that JR might go there and be a consultant, and hey, you know what? He can turn a franchise around. We've seen it. If they get a coach like Rick Tocchet, if he's available, right? I think they have to acquire a veteran goalie. That would be my plan. So yeah, maybe moving up to draft a goalie for the future for sure. But I think they really have to take care of the back end and get an own power, and then take it from there.
We don't have a first round pick this year, I believe, right? Because of the Minnesota Wild trade for Zucker.
Yeah, and there's no first round pick. Yeah, no.
Oh, that guy's really paying dividends off. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Nick?
My final thoughts of the night is, number one is that, I'm frustrated as a Penguins fan. That being said, does Hexie do something? I'm sure he's going to do some roster moves. My biggest thing is, hey, you know what? Sully, thank you for 2016. Thank you for 2017. But the last 4 years have been miserable for playoff results. We're sitting here tonight when we should be getting ready for the Penguins Bruins tomorrow night and having a pregame show about that. I'm starting to think that this is more of a country club than a winning organization that we're used to. You can win in the regular season. That's fine. You can sell those jerseys. But at the end of the day, the one thing I have to say, and I put this on our Instagram, is that all the media members in Pittsburgh, they're all laughing at the Leafs and calling them jabronis and all this stuff. There's one thing that Pittsburgh fans have to remember. Besides the Leafs going out and them being the first place team in the North, we were the first place team in the East, and we got knocked out as well. So even if you had a 3-1 lead and you blew it, it still doesn't matter. We lost to the Islanders. We were the first place seed. They were the fourth. We got knocked out. So you know what? Just because we won a cup in 2016, 2017, nobody even remembers that anymore. Nobody remembers that. That's, 5 years deep, right? Everybody's now remembering, Jordan, that we are getting knocked out year after year after year. First round. So that's
at least the only thing I'll say is at least I would say Barry Trotz is the better coach, and they have the better roster than Montreal. Other than that, you still got knocked out. Same result.
Yeah, you still got knocked out. Same result. But again, like we said in the beginning of this podcast, if you're not succeeding at what you're doing in the last 4 years, you're not in your role. So to me, the disturbing part about it is Sullivan can say what he wants in
new regime, same shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, until I see otherwise, until I see a move or two that really say, okay, we're going in a different direction here, we're bringing back the core, and I don't have a problem with that. But until I see drastic change in terms of the way that we're going to play, and again, Jordan, and I'm going on a little bit here, but learning from our mistakes, lessons learned, all this fucking nonsense, and you're going to hear it next year too. That's, so I don't know. It's to me, I'm frustrated. I'm a frustrated Penguins fan. And you know what? Anybody can tell me, Sully's going to buy into it. No way. I don't see it.
Agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, man. So yeah, we'll be back sooner than later. But until next time, puckheads, stay happy, healthy, safe, and blessed.